So let's kind of transition that point right there to what do we think went wrong with that 2016, 2017 era of movies there? Because it seemed obviously a lot of people didn't particularly like Batman v Superman. I gave it a positive review, and I would stand by that. Original
even
cut,
the theatrical.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it was this. It wasn't this. I mean, it was this. Right. But okay. I mean, I thought that there was a lot of things there that I enjoyed that were interesting, and then it was fleshed out with the director's cut. But I can see where the critics are. Like, I see why people would be like, "What on earth is this?" But I've always had a positive experience with it. But in Suicide Squad, that's one that I saw and I was like, okay, that was kind of fun. And then rewatched it. And I was like, what did I just watch? And then, Justice League was bizarre to say the least. So what went wrong? What's your take?
Yeah, the biggest issue for me is with the DCEU in the early stages was just studio interference in trying to replicate the Marvel formula. That was their biggest Achilles heel, because listen, like, Man of Steel got pretty middling reviews when it initially came out, but if you look at Zack Snyder's like track record, Zack Snyder's a divisive filmmaker. Like, people either really like the hyper stylized, mythic storytelling, or they don't. They find it pretentious. That's just what you're going to get with a filmmaker like Zack Snyder. And when you put all of your chips on that guy, you're going to get a movie that has mixed reception. But I think time has been very kind to Man of Steel, given other projects that have come out and just like, people sitting on it a little bit more. And I would actually say that for a majority of Snyder's films. So I for the time being, I will say that Man of Steel is like, it was a success. You go to BVS, the reason,
but it also didn't set up a universe. It's a movie that wasn't designed to set up a universe. There's little Easter eggs of Wayne throughout the whole thing. But like, their premise, if you listen to Christopher Nolan, like his take on what made it interesting to him when Goyer pitched it, you don't know the story. In the middle of writing The Dark Knight Rises, David Goyer kind of went, I'm going to take a break. He started reading some Superman comics, went, I've got a great idea, called up Christopher Nolan, pitched this idea to him. Christopher Nolan went, oh, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. And then that's what led to Man of Steel getting made. It was not, the origins of it was Christopher Nolan and David Goyer, the Dark Knight gang, had an idea that they really liked. And that's kind of how it came about. And the whole pitch was, what would happen if Superman suddenly appeared on the screen, on the scene, and everyone was introduced? Wait, there's aliens and there's this superpowered man. How would the world respond? The whole pitch was, this is new. That's not a great setup for a shared universe if you're going to say that Wonder Woman's been around for forever.
Yeah. And that's where you get into the studio interference and really trying to catch up with Marvel. We should have gotten, like, Man of Steel, totally fine. We should have gotten a solo Batman movie. We should have gotten a solo Wonder Woman film before we even thought about doing Justice League. And that's why BVS is BVS is more of a Batman movie than it really is a Superman movie. Now, I think the Ultimate Edition really fixed some of those problems. It shows Clark being a reporter, and it shows his side of the equation a little bit more. But when you have a movie called Batman versus Superman, you need to balance both of those halves equally, and I don't think it does that. And on top of that, it shoehorns in the Justice League just grossly, which I don't think was Zack Snyder's initial intention.
So the movie feels to me like Goyer, Snyder, they were talking and they went like, all right, our sequel, all right, what's the backlash? So we have Superman, and then what about all the politics that come with that and who he chooses to save? That's interesting. Okay, and then we'll have Lex Luthor comes in as the face of that. Okay, that's really good. And then the reception was kind of mixed, and they went, and then at the same time, Avengers is just killing it the year before. And they went, okay, we got to put Batman in it. Can you do Batman as the counter to Lex Luthor? He's the guy that can be redeemed in the story and understand where Superman's coming from. Can you take that idea that you had and put Batman in it? Yeah. And the Justice League. And that's what the movie feels like, because it's you have a story that could work in and of itself with Lex Luthor and his plot and maybe even Doomsday. And then you have this whole other thing about Batman and his rage that we never saw normal Batman We never got his movie. Like,
Yeah.
you imagine, what if we got the Batman and we saw hopeful Bruce Wayne? Not hopeful, that's the wrong word for Bruce Wayne. But you get the kind of a classic Ben Affleck, older Batman, and the post-credits scene is 5 minutes long, and it's that intro sequence of Batman v Superman.
I completely agree.
And you just see the rage, and the whole movie's about him kind of trying to balance who he is, and then the thing that snaps him happens in the post-credit scene, and we're seeing that some of this happened parallel to Man of Steel, and he's been working in the shadows, and people don't know who he is, and then he sees that, and he snaps, and then suddenly a bunch of people who are like, why is like, he's not the Punisher, why is he doing this? Like, oh, we saw him not that, and he just watched in front of him thousands of his just die right there, and there's nothing that he could do as this guy that has dedicated his life to saving lives. That guy is a threat, and I have to stop him. And there's an insanity to that. There's a pride to that, and that makes his story so much more richer inside of Batman v Superman. They didn't do that though, and so they rushed to it and trying to do all these plots, and this also gets convoluted. So anyway, we talked a lot about this one. Suicide Squad just seems like they rushed it. I mean, all the stories that David Ayer had 6 weeks to write the script, and they didn't know what they wanted.
Yeah, they rushed that thing out. There was a lot of studio interference. Even going back to BVS, the theatrical release of BVS is just hacked to shreds. Like it is just the plot is actually incomprehensible because they hack out all of the important setup in the beginning, which is still baffling to me. Why a studio would do that? It was like, oh, this isn't important. Well, no, this is very important. And so they do the same thing with Suicide Squad. They hire a trailer company because everyone liked the trailers to come in and cut the
movie.
Re-edit the movie. And so what we get feels like a trailer. It's all
music
style
as
with
character development.
Yeah, exactly. It's all style with no substance, which this might be getting a little ahead of myself, but that's why Birds of Prey is so interesting, because it has style. It's got, very vibrant, sometimes abrasive style, but it all has a purpose, and it all works to, creating the feeling like you're inside the head of Harley Quinn. Whereas like Suicide Squad, it's like, oh, that was a really cool trailer. Let's do that, but for an entire movie.
Yeah.
And so you just get nothing, and the villains suck, and it's just like Jared Leto's being just completely pretentious and over the top. It's just like, what are we doing here, guys? Come on. And so I think that movie mixed with the mixed to negative reception of BVS really just started to worry people, and then they just go full blown. We're gonna just take Warner Brothers DC is like, we're just gonna take complete control and just hack Justice League to shreds because we don't want to continue with Snyder's vision, even though we really should continue with Snyder's vision because we don't even know where we're going. It's just baffling creative decisions.
So with the Snyder Cut people, I mean, on the one hand, I would desperately love to see that. I mean, if they announced that, I would desperately love to see it. Other hand to it is that it doesn't exist. Here's what I mean by that. Like, if people are like, no, he said there's a cut. Gotcha. But, I mean, it was supposed to be 2 movies. They squished it down to 1. And then, I mean, immediately, as soon as Batman v Superman didn't get the response they wanted, they got the wrong message. Oh, it's too dark. That's not really the problem here.
That wasn't what it was,
And so then, like, let's put humor in there. And then that Comic-Con trailer they put out a year and a half before the movie came out was all jokes. And that was pure Snyder. That was pure, I mean, it looked Snyder and everything, but it was pure jokes and one-liners and Bruce Wayne joking with the Flash and Aquaman.
Yeah.
I mean, his vision had been compromised before they hit the record button. Yeah. That's what I hit record. They slapped I'm using my language, not theirs, but whatever.
So but I agree.
I would desperately love to see it, but that vision of it, I just don't know that it exists, and it just kind of.
I think we will see it, similar to a story we're going to talk about a little bit later on. I think we're going to see it because I think. I mean, first of all, you get all this stuff that Snyder's talking about. I think he's just going to finance the project himself because he is the type of creator who will not be able to sleep at night unless his vision is put out there for the world to see. I mean, he made a movie like Sucker Punch and he still stands by it. Like, Sucker Punch is not a great movie, but it's all Zack Snyder. It's his vision, and I can't see him just like living with himself, knowing that his name is attached to this monstrosity that clearly was not his vision. And so
even that he's not going out there bad mouthing it. He's not doing anything to trash Whedon. He's not doing anything to actually like cause trouble, but he's doing everything he can to be like, here's the thing I was excited about. Here's what I was working on. Here's a little bit more of what's out there. And he's been posting these pictures all along. I mean, and he keeps doing it. He keeps teasing them because, I mean, and then the fact that, when you have Jason Momoa like, oh, yeah, I saw something. He showed me. It's like, right.
Yeah.
He's got something that he wants to get out there. So I can't wait till the day that happens or whenever it'll
happen.
I mean, when I say it doesn't exist, I'm not saying I don't want to see it. And I'm not saying that there's not a thing that we'll probably see. What I'm saying is that his actual vision is very different from what he was able to film. And I think that's why I think we'll be underwhelmed even when we do get it. I think it absolutely will be an improvement without question. But at the same time, I think it won't be like the full thing that we were hoping it would and could be because it was compromised before they hit record. And to even just kind of a couple more thoughts on some of the things where I think they went wrong. If you're going to try and do a shared universe, Zack Snyder, I don't think was ever the right guy to do it.
No, absolutely not. That's why, and I don't mean to cut you off, just real quickly. That's why I think once we do get this Snyder cut, these three films, like Man of Steel, BVS Ultimate, and the Snyder Cut Justice League, that will be a great Elseworld trilogy.
Yes,
that's something. It's this Elseworld Snyder vision that I'm glad exists, that I'm glad happened. But like it will not be like used going forward.
No, and the thing is, I mean, I love Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. And it's not necessarily that all his movies are great, but there's always such a distinct flavor, vision, whichever word you want to use. It's so distinctly Zack Snyder. Except Justice League. I know. Like whenever I a couple years back when I went back and rewatched Dawn of the Dead, I was like, this might be my favorite zombie movie. And then 300, such a great dude movie. I mean, just so visceral in the way it's doing things. And then, Watchmen of taking this unfilmable thing and doing something with it that's faithful, but so distinctly Zack Snyder at the same time. I love Man of Steel also. It took me a little while to come around to it. I was always positive, but it took me a while to be like, this is just, if you don't try and compare it to Richard Donner, man, this is like a Snyder version, Elseworld. This is a very cool thing. And I'm so excited to see this Netflix movie that he's doing with, got Chris Pratt and it's zombies and was it Dave Bautista? I mean, that just sounds amazing. That sounds just perfectly what he needs to go back to after what he just went through.
Yeah.
And then Justice League of just seeing it kind of sucks like you're watching a movie directed by committee.
Yeah.
Just every scene just feels different. Suddenly it's just so overtly Joss Whedon jokes out of the blue. I mean, even, Ben Affleck's weight is shifting by about 20 pounds.
It's weird. Yeah.
His skin tone looks different. Like he got a chemical peel right before the reshoots or I mean, it's a very stuff like that's just odd. It's stuff where it doesn't even seem like Whedon tried to match the look. It's bizarre.
Even the music, man, Danny Elfman's score is so bad.
Boring.
It's terrible. What were they thinking? I get compromising the production stuff, but the one thing you've been universally praising, that people have universally praised across the board with these movies, you're gonna just up and get rid of? What?
Yeah, that's it's baffling.